Imagine every delivery truck in the country just stopped. No warning, no announcement. How long would your kitchen actually last you? 3 days, maybe 4, before the shelves in most houses were picked clean. I'm not telling you that to scare you. I'm telling you because it's a problem with a very old, very simple fix, one that used to be common sense before it quietly became something people forgot. There was a time when nobody in your family tree would have felt comfortable with 3 days of food in the house. The cellar was stocked. The pantry ran deep. And a shocking amount of what sat on those shelves would last for years, some of it for decades, without a single freezer or power outlet involved. Today I'm counting down 31 foods that hold up like that. The stuff that time barely touches. And for every single one, I'm going to give it to you straight. How long it genuinely lasts, and exactly how to store it so it actually does. Before we dive in, here's the one idea that unlocks all of it, and it's really not complicated. Food goes bad because bacteria and mold move in and start eating it. And those organisms need exactly 3 things to survive: water, air, and something to feed on. Cut off the moisture, and they can't grow. Cut off the air, and most of them are stuck. And a handful of foods simply don't offer them anything to eat in the first place. Almost everything on this list survives for one of those 3 reasons. Once that clicks, you'll look at your own cupboard differently. You'll stop trusting the date stamped on the box and start trusting something more reliable, dry, dark, sealed, and your own common sense. Quick introduction before we get moving. I'm Nomi Yoder, and the traditional storage methods I use in my own home, the kind I'm walking you through today, go a lot deeper than any single video could cover. I've put the complete version together for anyone who wants it, so keep that in mind as we go. And one honest disclaimer before item 31, because I want to be straight with you the whole way through. You'll hear people describe these as foods that never expire, and it's a catchy line, but it isn't the full truth, and I won't tell you something that isn't. A few items on this list are close to immortal: salt, sugar, honey. Most of the rest last for years, sometimes decades if you store them correctly. A few only hold for a handful of years, and I'll flag those clearly. None of them last forever sitting damp, warm, and uncovered on an open shelf. The keeping happens in the storing, not the food itself. Keep that in mind for every number I give you. Let's start the countdown. Number 31, white rice. A bag of white rice will outlive your car loan if you keep it bone dry. Notice I said white, not brown. Brown rice still carries its natural bran and oils, and that oil turns rancid within a year or 2. For true long-term storage, white rice is the one you want. Sealed in an airtight bag or a bucket with the air removed, tucked somewhere cool and dark, it can last for decades. Toss in a few dried bay leaves to keep insects out, an old trick that still works. A 25-pound bag is weeks of meals sitting there ready to go. Number 30, dry pasta. You already know this one from dinner. What you might not realize is that it keeps almost indefinitely once it's dry, because dryness means bacteria and mold never get a foothold. The real weakness is that cardboard box. It lets in moisture and pests. Transfer your pasta into a sealed jar, tin, or vacuum bag. Store it cool and out of sunlight, and you're looking at 8 to 10 years of solid quality. And honestly, a warm bowl of pasta does as much for morale during a hard stretch as it does for hunger. Number 29, rolled oats. Breakfast that patiently waits for you. Oats keep because they're dried down hard, and steel-cut oats last even longer since they're handled less. Moisture is the enemy here. One damp container can ruin the entire batch. Pack them into buckets with the air pulled out and a tight seal, and they'll last for years, ready to become porridge, bread, or whatever a lean morning calls for. Number 28, dried corn. Long before refrigerators or supermarkets existed, this single food kept entire communities fed through winter. Corn keeps because it's dried hard, and once the water content drops, spoilage nearly stops in its tracks. Whole kernels last the longest. Cornmeal keeps too, but ages faster because grinding exposes more surface to air. Keep it sealed, dry, and pest-free, and you can grind it, boil it, bake it, or pop it. Very few pantry staples pull that much weight. Number 27, hardtack. The plainest survival bread there is, just flour and water, baked until bone dry. That extreme dryness is exactly why it lasts, because there's no moisture left for anything to grow in. Sailors and soldiers carried it across oceans for that exact reason. Stored sealed and dry, it holds for many years. It's tough enough to challenge your teeth, but soften it in soup or coffee and it turns perfectly edible. Not glamorous, but dependable. Number 26. Dried beans. They look unremarkable sitting in a bag, but in a lean season, these are your protein and iron. They keep for years because they're dried down so thoroughly, with almost no water or fat left to turn. Move them out of the store bag into sealed jars or buckets with the air removed, kept cool, dark, and off the floor. Very old beans get stubborn and need longer cooking, but they never lose their nutritional value. Number 25. Dried lentils. This is your go-to when time and fuel are both short, because lentils cook fast, often with no soaking at all, and turn into a real meal with almost nothing but water, salt, and maybe a bouillon cube. They store well for the same reason beans do: low moisture, low fat. Humidity and pantry insects are the only real threats, so keep them sealed and tucked away cool and dark. Number 24. Powdered milk. Nothing makes you miss a normal breakfast like an empty milk carton during a blackout. This is the fix. With the water removed, bacteria have nothing to live in. The non-fat dry version, kept sealed, cool, and dry, can last close to 2 decades in an airtight container. Once opened, move it into a smaller airtight jar and use it steadily, since air and humidity shorten its life fast. Splitting your supply into smaller containers keeps the bulk sealed while you draw from one at a time. Number 23. Canned meat. I need to pause here and be completely direct, because this is the one item on the entire list where carelessness can genuinely hurt you. Store-bought canned meat arrives already cooked and sealed, so the real question was never the printed date. It's the condition of the can itself. Low-acid canned foods like meat hold their best quality for 2 to 5 years stored cool and dry, but safety depends entirely on that seal staying intact. If a can is bulging, leaking, badly rusted, or dented along a seam, throw it out. Don't taste it, don't risk it, because a compromised low acid can carry a toxin you can't see or smell that's genuinely dangerous. Label the purchase month, rotate the oldest first, and when you're unsure at all, toss it. A can is cheap. Your health isn't. Number 22. Ghee. Regular butter has one weakness: water, which is exactly why it spoils sitting out. Ghee is butter simmered down until the water and milk solids cook away, leaving nearly pure fat behind. Less water means fewer ways for bacteria to move in. Kept sealed away from heat and light, and only touched with a clean, dry spoon, ghee lasts well past a year, even longer in a cool spot. It's also easier on a sensitive stomach than regular butter, since almost none of the milk solids remain. Number 21. Coconut oil. Name another oil this flexible: frying eggs 1 minute, soothing dry skin the next. What makes it a long-term keeper is that its fat structure resists going rancid far better than lighter seed oils, which turn quickly. Keep it sealed, cool, and out of direct light, and it commonly lasts 2 to 5 years, often longer. I keep a small jar near the stove for daily use, and leave the larger supply sealed in a dark cupboard until it's needed. Number 20. Raw honey. Archaeologists have pulled jars of honey out of ancient tombs, still edible after thousands of years. Whether or not you take every version of that story at face value, honey really is one of the great long-term keepers. It survives because it's almost entirely sugar with barely any free water, giving microbes nothing to grab onto, and it's naturally acidic on top of that. Keep it tightly sealed somewhere cool, and keep water out of the jar entirely. If it turns grainy, that's just crystallization, not spoilage. Set the jar in warm water, and it smooths right back out. Number 19. White sugar. Here's the funny part. To a germ, sugar is basically a desert. Microbes need water to multiply, and sugar offers none. In fact, it actively pulls moisture in and locks it away, which is exactly why sugar is used to preserve fruit in the first place. The only real threat is dampness. If it hardens into a solid brick, that's not spoilage, it's just absorbed a little moisture. Break it apart, and it's still fine. Keep it sealed, completely dry, and away from strong smells, since sugar readily absorbs odors. Stored dry, it sits for decades without issue. Number 18. Pure maple syrup. Crack open a bottle of the real thing, and you smell the forest, not a factory floor. Pure maple keeps because its sugar content is concentrated enough to hold spoilage at bay almost entirely. A sealed bottle lasts for years untouched. Once opened, refrigeration helps prevent mold. If a little surface mold does show up, some people skim it off and gently reheat the syrup, though use your own judgment there, and wipe the rim clean before resealing. Number 17. Blackstrap molasses. This comes from the final boiling of raw sugar, which leaves it thick, dark, and concentrated, and that concentration is exactly what gives it staying power. A sealed bottle on a cool shelf holds up fine. Wipe the lid before closing so no moisture sneaks in. Its flavor actually deepens with age rather than fading, which is why old-time bakers valued it. It delivered sweetness, iron, and minerals all at once. In a deep pantry, it's calorie insurance with personality. Number 16. Salt. There's nothing biological in this mineral and nothing in it for anything to feed on. No fat, no water, no sugar. That's precisely why ancient traders hauled it across deserts and oceans. It never rotted. It just waited. The only way to ruin salt is to let it get wet and clump together. Keep your bulk supply sealed, with a small jar out for daily cooking, and for long-term storage, skip the iodized kind, since iodine fades over the years. Beyond seasoning, salt does triple duty for curing, pickling, and your body's basic needs. Number 15. Bouillon cubes. Think of these as flavor compressed into a small, hard block. Drop one into hot water, and you've got broth that tastes like a real kitchen made it. They keep because they're packed with salt and dried completely through, and that same salt makes them tough to ruin as long as moisture stays out. Keep them sealed in jars or vacuum bags, away from steam and the sink, and they'll hold their strength for years. Number 14. Soy sauce. The salt content and the long fermentation process already did the preserving before the bottle ever reached your shelf, which is why it can sit for years without any trouble. What actually dulls it over time is an age. It's air and light. Keep the cap sealed tight, store it away from sunlight and stove heat, and once opened, a cool cupboard or the fridge slows the fading of that deep, savory flavor that makes it worth keeping in the first place. Number 13. Whole peppercorns. Grind your pepper too early, and you're wasting it. You've probably noticed how fresh ground pepper is sharp at first, then goes flat and dusty within a few weeks. Whole peppercorns hold their flavor because that hard outer shell locks the essential oils inside like built-in packaging. Store them whole in a tight glass jar in a cool, dark cabinet and grind only what each meal needs. The bite stays strong for years that way. Number 12. Dried herbs. Here's something worth understanding. Dried herbs don't spoil the way fresh food does. They just gradually lose potency. So, what you're protecting isn't safety, it's strength. Sealed in airtight jars away from light and heat, most keep meaningful flavor for years. Low moisture is the whole trick again. Whole leaves outlast ground or powdered blends because less surface area is exposed to air. Stored right, they'll outlast half your pantry and still show up strong when you need them. Number 11. Distilled white vinegar. If there's one bottle in your kitchen that simply refuses to quit, it's this one. It doesn't age the way milk or oil does. It just sits there, stable. That's because it's acidic enough to shut bacteria down before they ever get comfortable. An unopened bottle stays perfectly usable for decades with almost no loss in quality. Keep it upright in a cool, dark cabinet, away from sunny windows and warm appliances. Beyond cooking, it doubles as a cleaning agent and a pickling base. Number 10. Apple cider vinegar with the mother. That cloudy strand floating in the bottle isn't a defect. It's proof the culture is still alive, and it's actually why this vinegar barely ages at all. The high acidity creates an environment where harmful microbes simply can't take hold. Seal the cap tight, keep it cool and out of direct sunlight, and it'll last for years without refrigeration. Some people keep a single bottle going for a decade, topping it off as they use it. Number 9. Pure vanilla extract. Real vanilla is one of the rare pantry items that actually improves with age. The secret is the alcohol base, which protects it from spoiling. So while other ingredients degrade over time, vanilla just deepens in flavor. Store it in a dark bottle to block light, upright in a cool cabinet, and it will outlast nearly everything else on your shelf. A small bottle that quietly becomes a lifelong kitchen fixture. Number 8. Baking soda. Ever find something at the very back of the pantry that survived every move and every clean-out? That's usually baking soda. It keeps because it isn't food at all. It's a plain mineral, so there's nothing in it for bacteria to consume. Keep it sealed and away from the sink, steam, and heat, and stored dry. It stays usable for decades. It earns its place in any deep pantry for baking, cleaning, and a dozen other jobs besides. Number 7. Cornstarch. This one has exactly one rule: stay dry. Keep the moisture out and nothing can break it down. No bacteria, no mold, no change at all for years. Move it out of that flimsy box into an airtight container, keep it well away from steam and the stove, and set it in a cool, dry cabinet and forget about it. Open it months or years later, and it behaves exactly like the day you stored it. Number 6. Instant coffee. Mornings don't pause for an emergency, and neither does the craving for coffee. Once coffee is dried and sealed, there's almost nothing left for microbes to attack. Air is what slowly dulls its flavor and aroma, so move it from that flimsy jar into an airtight tin or vacuum-sealed pack and keep it away from heat. Stored cool and dark, it holds up well past 5 years. A small comfort you forget you have until the morning you really need it. Number 5. Dark chocolate, 70% and up. Milk chocolate is delicate, but high cocoa dark chocolate is a genuinely rugged keeper. Past 70% cocoa content, the sugar and cocoa butter dominate and moisture stays extremely low, which slows spoilage to a crawl. Heat is what ruins a supply, so keep it cool, sealed, and out of light, and it'll hold quality for 2 to 5 years without refrigeration. In a hard, stressful stretch, one square of it does more for morale than most people expect a whole meal to do. Number 4. Green tea. Tea doesn't rot, it fades, and that distinction matters. Dry leaves don't spoil like fresh food because bacteria can't survive without water. What actually degrades quality is light, air, and humidity. Seal it tight, keep it in the dark, store it away from kitchen steam, and the leaves hold their flavor far longer than you'd expect. A vacuum-sealed tin works best. Open it months later, and it still smells fresh. Number 3. Popcorn kernels. A movie night snack doesn't sound like emergency food, yet this one quietly outlasts most of the pantry. Each kernel is wrapped in a tough shell that protects the moisture and prevents contamination inside. Dampness is what cracks that shell and ends its shelf life, so store them sealed in airtight jars, with a small drying packet tossed in, away from heat. Stored properly, popcorn kernels last for many years, sometimes past a decade, and unlike heavier grains, they cook fast on very little fuel and stretch a food supply a long way. Number 2. Hard candy. Notice how old candy doesn't grow mold. It just turns sticky. That's because it's nearly pure sugar with almost no free water, and no water means nothing for microbes to feed on. Moisture is still the main risk here too. Sealed in glass jars or vacuum bags with a moisture absorber, kept cool, it holds its sweetness for years and it's compact, cheap, and gives an instant energy boost when everything else feels heavy. Number 1. Hard liquor. I'll be direct here. This isn't a food, and I'm not listing it as something to lean on. But high-proof spirits keep almost indefinitely because nothing can survive once the alcohol content is high enough. A sealed bottle simply doesn't spoil the way food does. That's exactly why old-time stockpiles included some, not necessarily for drinking, but for keeping, whether to clean a wound or to trade in a hard season, when something that never spoils becomes worth more than cash. Kept upright, sealed, away from heat and sunlight, it stays stable for decades. I'm including it here for the sake of completeness, and I'll leave what you do with that information to your own judgment. Now take a quiet second and think about who actually benefits from you keeping only 3 days of food in the house. There's no profit in a pantry that lasts a generation. The entire modern grocery system is built around you buying small and buying often, running to the store 2 or 3 times a week, keeping nothing deep, trusting the shelves will always be full because they always have been. A household with a year of rice, beans, honey, and salt already set aside is a household that doesn't need the store the way the store needs them to. So the deep pantry, the root cellar, the full cupboard that used to be standard in nearly every home, quietly stopped being taught, not because it failed, but because there's a lot more money in a customer who has to come back next Tuesday than in one who's already provisioned for a year. I'm not claiming there's some grand conspiracy behind it. It's simpler than that. An entire retail system grew up around the frequent trip and the always full shelf, and the old habit of deep storage just stopped getting passed down along the way. Your great-grandmother probably didn't think of herself as a prepper. She was simply someone who would have been embarrassed to be caught with 3 days of food and winter closing in. That wasn't fear, that was just common sense, passed down from mother to daughter, until somewhere along the line it quietly stopped, and having a full pantry started looking unusual instead of ordinary. Fixing this isn't scary, and it doesn't have to be expensive. You don't build a year's worth of food in a single day. You buy 1 extra bag of rice this week, a few jars of beans the next, a tin of salt, a jar of honey, and you store each one correctly. Dry, dark, and sealed, with the date marked clearly. Within a season, you'll have a deeper pantry than most homes on your street, built gradually out of the cheapest, longest-lasting foods available. That's how it actually comes together. Not all at once, but 1 bag, 1 jar, 1 sealed bucket at a time, until your household is one that wouldn't go hungry in 3 days, or even 3 months. So here's what I'd genuinely like you to do. Pick just 1 item from this list of 31 and start this week. Rice, beans, salt, honey, whichever one speaks to you. Store it properly, and then come back and tell me in the comments which one you chose. I want to know you've actually started. And while you're there, let me know where you're from. I learned something new from every comment about how people are building their own pantries, 1 shelf at a time. Next time, I'll walk you through which canned foods are genuinely worth stockpiling and which ones quietly waste your money, along with how to read a can properly and rotate your shelves so nothing ever gets lost at the back of the cupboard. There's a right way and old way to build a deep pantry that can carry a family through a long, hard stretch on simple, affordable food. And most of it is far easier than you'd expect. But today, you start with just 1. Bring home 1 bag or 1 jar of the longest-lasting food on this list, seal it away dry and dark, and mark the date. That's the first stone laid toward a pantry that doesn't fear an empty shelf, and the understanding that a full cellar was never something strange or extreme. It was only ever forgotten. And forgetting something is never permanent, not when you can undo it 1 jar at a time.